As an African living in the United States, I used to share the same sentiment that Africans share about African Americans because I had a hard time when I first moved here. People used to always tell me, "You're not black enough, you're an Oreo, you're secretly white on the inside," as if I wasn't literally from Africa. But I now understand after living here for 8 years that black in the United States is a very specific criteria, and anything outside of that just doesn't fit. But I want to help African Americans understand that Africans coming to the United States are immigrants, first and foremost. Then they are Nigerian or Senegalese or whatever country they're from, and then at some point they are black.
Even though I want to disagree with you, I get where you're coming from. When I see black people talking about racism, all that stuff, I'm like, what is wrong with these people? You guys have food, you have EBT, all this thing, and you're here shouting about somebody is racist too. Just leave that person and move on. I feel that way. Like, why are they always like complaining? But when Black Lives Matters started happening, like, I sat down, I said, I need to actually know why these people are pained. And if we look at the history, what they've done to them, like if you actually sit down, watch some documentaries, how they were maltreated, I don't think if I'm actually born, I will forgive those people. I don't care. It's easier for us Africans that were raised in Africa to feel like they're complaining because we were raised through struggle.
What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to my space. This is Evans Rayola. Guys, kindly do consider subscribing to my channel for amazing works in regards to Black history. So guys, on today's video, I want us to talk about the relationships between Africans in the continent and Africans in the diaspora. To be specific, Black Americans, or rather African Americans. Family, there's been a lot of stereotypes between these two groups of people. And the one thing that I want everyone to know, even before I proceed, is that we are one and the same people. We look the same, we have the same forefathers in a way or the other. So far, on today's video, I just wanted to bridge the gap and ensure that we get to understand each other, because many a times there is a lot of stereotypes outside there. There are a lot of stereotypes between Africans and African Americans shaped by the media, history, and cultural misunderstanding. And I want to go deeper into this conversation. And before we delve deep, I want to show you a series of videos of everyone sharing their experiences, either an African person who's come, an African person who's come to America to seek for jobs and has had the experience to actually get to understand Black Americans and vice versa. So once the videos are done, we will get back and do a critical analysis about the same. Let's watch these guys together.
As an African living in the United States, I used to share the same sentiment that Africans share about African Americans because I had a hard time when I first moved here. People used to always tell me, "You're not black enough, you're an Oreo, you're secretly white on the inside," as if I wasn't literally from Africa. But I now understand after living here for 8 years that black in the United States is a very specific criteria, and anything outside of that just doesn't fit. But I want to help African Americans understand that Africans coming to the United States are immigrants, first and foremost. Then they are Nigerian or Senegalese or whatever country they're from, and then at some point they are black. But Africans don't put black high up on their identity well as much as African Americans do. And that is for legitimate reasons on both ends. And so when an African is coming to the United States, they're thinking to themselves, okay, I'm an immigrant here. I have to do my best for myself and my family back home. The sacrifices that took for me to get here were no light work. Okay, so I need to really align myself with what's going to make me successful in this country. And because it's the United States, it's the dominant culture, which is white American culture. And so Africans are going to instinctively ally themselves with the culture that's going to give them the most success. I mean, African Americans even admit that they have to code switch to be successful here because that's what brings success. And so Africans are like, all right, we'll do that. And it also doesn't help that for a long time, Africans are fed a very negative view of Black American culture, and that's its own propaganda. But because Africans are so conservative and they're coming to a country where Black Americans have been labeled as the antithesis to this conservative traditional family values, they have, if anything, more in common with Southern Baptist white racist people. But that aside, going back to identity markers, Black Americans put Black first and foremost, and then everything else goes below it. And so they're thinking when another Black people come to our country, they're going to want to integrate with us, the other Black people, because duh, Black comes first. And they get quickly disappointed in realizing that for Africans, Black and the identity and that coming is not first. Their immigrant identity comes first, and then their country. And if anything, for us as Africans to feel like that's my brother, that's my brethren, or whatever, you have to come from the same tribe as us, because we have so many Black people around, we don't automatically pre-select for Black. But Black Americans don't have so many Black people around, have had to defend and protect their culture amidst a dominant white culture. And so they already pre-select and are overprotective for Black. And so that's why I think at the core of it, there's like a deep misunderstanding because of not realizing that we put where we put our identity markers and what we put first and what we prioritize are so different culturally because of our differences in trauma, realistically. And so it does make sense that Black Americans will be like, oh, my people, my brethrens, come here. And African Americans, or Africans, sorry, coming to the United States are like, I'm just trying to make it here. Like, it's a lot of work to immigrate to the United States. And so y'all can stay over there, and I can see why it's hurtful, and I can see why it's taken personally, and I can see the deep misunderstanding and the betrayal that African Americans feel. But it's unfortunate, and that's just a reality. But if we can talk about it from this perspective, I think we can get to a better understanding. But I also believe that Africans that spend enough time in the United States get to this compassion and understanding of the Black American community, because it is a very unique and specific set of circumstances for a culture to grow and to develop.
Even though I want to disagree with you, I get where you're coming from. When I see Black people talking about racism, all that stuff, I'm like, what is wrong with these people? You guys have food, you have EBT, all this thing, and you're here shouting about somebody is racist too. Just leave that person and move on. I feel that way. Like, why are they always like complaining? But when Black Lives Matters started happening, like, I sat down, I said, I need to actually know why these people are pained. And if we look at the history, what they've done to them, like if you actually sit down, watch some documentaries, how they were maltreated, I don't think if I'm actually born, I will forgive those people. I don't care. It's easier for us Africans that were raised in Africa to feel like they're complaining, because we were raised through struggle. Like, I barely even have water, and you have water, you're complaining. But then it's not about the basic necessity or about how we are raised. We are raised like, I don't want to say way better. We might not have resources, but there are some way, like our own people will not look down on us or put us behind. So it's in they're nurtured that way. Like, they just can't overlook it. And if you sit down and watch everything that the forefathers have been through for you, I changed my mind. No, they need to be angry. However, they should still move forward.
Honestly, I feel like as an African American, this diaspora bullshit.
I have to chime in here because I haven't seen a lot of videos with the AA versus Africans conversation, but this propaganda, this is so westernized. I literally just spent a week in Africa. I went to 3 different countries. I was there a week and a half ago. I went to Egypt, Morocco, and Senegal. I have literally never felt any type of tension between Africans and myself while on the continent. And that was not my first time on the continent. I have been to Ghana, South Africa, Tanzania, Kenya. Literally no country I've been to made me feel unwelcomed or like I wasn't a part of those people, that land, nothing. Regardless of these conversations, please do not let these conversations stop you guys from visiting African countries, because it is not like that over there. I promise you. We have to stop this foolishness. Like, it's not going to get us nowhere fast. We all just got to love each other.
There is a disconnection, I think, between African Americans here and the continent of Africa. A lot of it has to do with we're not comfortable admitting it, but many of us, especially those who have never been to Africa, hold perceptions and biases about what Africa is actually like. Once you're there, you feel the immediate connection. It just feels good, much like it does here in America when you go to cities or to places where everybody in there looks like you. There's a sense of comfort. There's you're able to relax a little bit more, as opposed to when you're in mixed environments, or as most of us are in environments where we're the minority. But I think a lot of us have just don't have enough education about what Africa is, what it's able to offer. I think we hold some very common misperceptions.
Here's a message to all the Africans who want to move to the U.S. America is not what you think it is. If you choose to get a black woman, you need to stick with a black woman that came from Africa, or you need to bring a woman from Africa here. Do not think that you're going to get the same godly treatment from the black woman that's raised here in America, the descendants of slaves, that you got on the African continent. You need to keep a tight community with the other Africans who moved over here, because the black community that's here and was here for the past 400 years is divided. Nigga, we can't even go to a goddamn party without the fear of a nigga shooting it up. If you step on a nigga's shoes wrong, this nigga might steal off on you. He might kill you. It is not love in the black community in America like it is in Africa. Most of our kids are reading on a 5th and 6th grade reading level. They are losing their virginities early as shit. Early as elementary, middle, and most of them early high school. We don't believe in marriage. Our women have a 24% marriage rate. Our women have double-digit body counts by the time they getting out of high school. These are things you got to think about here. Another thing, when you get here, you got to work like your ass in captivity, so you better be ready. All you can think about is work, get home, go to sleep, send your kids to school to get indoctrinated by the white man, and then work again. These are just a couple things you got to think about when you come to America.
After watching the videos that I've just shown you, you can already tell that these different groups has had stereotypes over the years against each other, or rather something that they've gotten wrongly, you know. And here are some of the stereotypes, according to my research, that some Africans have about African Americans, and they are not necessarily true. That's why I'm calling them stereotypes. Number one is that Africans may think that African Americans are lazy and entitled. Some Africans believe that African Americans don't work as hard as immigrants and rely too much on government assistance. You know, this is a stereotype that Africans have so much, especially Africans who've moved to America. You know, the sacrifice that Africans have to go through for them even to get an opportunity in the US. So they go there, work so hard, so that they may be able to support their families back in Africa. Probably they were struggling in Africa and they got an opportunity to work in the US. So once they are there and they are working so hard, sometimes they feel like the black Americans, you know, are lazy and entitled. They are waiting for government assistance. But that really is not necessarily true, you know. Sometimes they compare, you know, their work ethic, considering where they're coming from, with that of black Americans. And that makes them feel like these people are lazy, which is not true. Number two, we have the disconnected from African culture. You know, Africans feel like the African Americans are disconnected from their African culture. There is a stereotype that African Americans have no real knowledge of Africa and don't care to learn. You know, those are stereotypes that Africans think, you know, about black Americans. Then number three is that they are violent or criminal. Due to the media portrayal, some Africans assume African Americans are involved in gangs or crimes, because many times when you look at the media, when you look at portrayals or the depiction in movies, you'll see black communities fighting here and there, gun violence and all this stuff. So there's a lot of stereotypes around the same line. Then we have they complain too much about racism, you know, and some Africans think African Americans focus too much on racism instead of just working harder. You could see from the lady in the video, she mentioned that, you know, and that is a stereotype. Until she went to work, you know, in America, is when she noticed that these people are not actually complaining too much. You know, the same way they came, you know, they came from Africa to go and work in America. The situation in America is different. The black man has always gone through systemic racism, discrimination, and all forms of prejudices, and they have all the right to complain about it. Coming from Africa where everyone looks like you feel like when you go to America, the least you can do is work hard. And that is not what's the same thing, with the black people in America, the black Americans. Their situation is different. So having to say them like they complain too much is a stereotype that only Africans have, especially if they've not experienced this firsthand. Then you have the lack of strong family values. The idea that African Americans don't prioritize family the way African cultures do. Remember, all these are stereotypes. And here are some of the stereotypes that some African Americans have about Africans, not the vice versa. What African Americans have about Africans, the stereotypes. Number one is primitive and poor. The idea that Africa is mostly huts, jungles, and poverty, ignoring modern cities and development. A good share of African Americans believe that Africa is just poverty, and that is not necessarily true again. Africa has cities. We have big municipalities, everything is developed nowadays. There are no hut houses in the cities. It's not like we meet lions on the road, Some people have this depiction of Africa as a jungle, and that is not true. Then they are too submissive to white people. That's another stereotype that they have, that some African Americans believe Africans don't challenge racism strongly and are too passive. Then number three, all have strong accents and wear traditional clothes. A stereotype that all Africans dress in traditional attire and have thick accents. Let me tell you one thing. If there's one thing that is happening in Africa right now, is a lot of westernization. People are starting to just copy what they see, in the media. You see even black men wearing clothes that are meant for women, because this is something they're seeing in the Western world. It doesn't necessarily mean that people who are living in Africa are wearing traditional clothes. Then number four is no understanding of racism in America. We actually understand racism in America. That's why I've done a series of videos, on Black history, on fighting racism, fighting discrimination. Some African Americans think that Africans don't fully grasp a systemic racism in the US. Then there's the lack of direct interaction. And it's time that now we find a way to bridge this gap, Enough of the complaints, enough of all these things we see online. It's time that we know how we can live or we can coexist together as a people. And many times these stereotypes comes with media influence. They come with the colonial and slavery legacies. And they also come with lack of direct interaction. Once you interact, once we foster and bring this conversation, we can easily associate together as a people. Many African Americans and many Africans and African Americans don't engage deeply with each other, leading to misunderstanding. Right now, the world has changed. We've seen black people from the US who've moved to Africa. I have interacted with them. Black Americans, or rather African Americans, are good people, beautiful human beings. They look just like us. They are so loving, Once you get to interact with them, then you can be able to understand, that we are one people. And that is all that we want as a people, the unity of the black race all over the world. Then now we have to bridge this gap. More direct cultural exchange, travel, and education can help both groups appreciate each other's strengths and challenges. The travel thing should be very, very instrumental, in us interacting, because after I have met like 2 or 3 African Americans who've moved to the motherland, I have gotten to understand more better, what they think of us. I can see the love they have for us and the love we have for themselves. Having to interact changes a lot of things. And recognizing shared struggles from colonialism and systemic racism can build stronger connections. We can be strongly connected because we share struggles together. Then there's the promoting unity over division can lead to better cooperation on issues affecting black people globally. So guys, share your thoughts on the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the videos that I have put in this specific video. And guys, like this video so that it can be recommended to other YouTube users and we will be able to bridge the gap. You know, I just share love amongst each other, because myself, if you'd ask me, I love Black Americans so much. I love you African Americans so much, and I just want to welcome you to the motherland, and I cannot wait to interact with more and more Black folks from the US. One love, and guys, kindly subscribe to the channel. We are currently on the road to 50k subscribers. Thank you, and see you all in my next episode. Goodbye.